Broadcasting with two busted Tesla coils from the abandoned Long John Silver's behind the abandoned Pizza Hut on Center Avenue in Bay City, Michigan. It's Everything, Anything, and Nothing Really, with your hosts, Eric Walensky and Matthew Maynard. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Eric.
My name's Matt.
And good evening to you, Matt.
Yes, to you also, Eric. And what did you just say? You said we're broadcasting with two busted testicles?
No.
Oh, because I was going to say, you know something that I never heard of.
Two busted Tesla coils.
Oh, Tesla. God, that could be confusing.
It's very confusing. Because now I'm trying to figure it out. Is it like we have one each busted, or...
Right, it's a story problem that...
with not enough information.
Right, exactly. What is the sum? Miss Sanchez doesn't know.
Matt and Eric are in the Long John Silver's with two busted testicles. Solve for X.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a little worried there. I didn't know what was going on, but also how you would broadcast with that, because, like, what am I doing with this microphone?
And why is that relevant?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a weird start, so...
You can create electricity with two busted testicles?
Eat your heart out, Thomas Edison.
Well, it's funny that you misheard that, though, because lately I've run into a handful of people who've given me a little feedback on the show, and all positive. Everybody's excited about the show. But the funny thing is, I don't know if we maybe made a mistake with our name, because it seems like whenever anybody approaches me with it, they can't pronounce the name of our show.
They can't pronounce it?
Well, it's not that they can't pronounce the words. They just don't. Well, for example, one of my friends said, "Hey, I was listening to your podcast the other day. It's really everything." And what?
Close.
Well, yes, two out of the 5-7 words.
Right.
But and then another friend called it everything sometimes. That's only one word. Everything
sometimes.
Has anybody ever...
Where were these people when we were coming up with a name for this, you know?
Yeah, somebody else, too, was commenting. They said, I was listening to Nothing and Nothing the other night.
And did you hear it?
Anyway, have you gotten any...
I get that sometimes.
You do? Okay, good. So
yeah, people come up to me and they're like, yeah, your show, nothing to talk about, or whatever. Or one person thought it was called Matt Tells Stories Slowly and Forgets the Endings to Them.
That sounds pointed, actually. That sounds deliberate.
I don't know what to tell you, Eric.
I think that might be feedback in itself.
Yeah, one person just texted me, I'm listening to your busted testicle show.
We should hashtag that. We'll get a whole bunch of really confused listeners. How is this going to help my problem? Well, actually, this episode might help out a few people in the subject of sex, actually. Yeah, our topics tonight. Actually, I just saw this the other day, Matt. I was down on 3rd Street, downtown Bay City. Do you know where the Chinese restaurant is at the corner of 3rd and Washington?
Yes.
Can you tell me what business is directly across the street?
Oh, I would never go there, so I don't know. I have no idea.
But you know what it is. You can't help but notice this big brown wall with this creepy single door. It's Ace Adult Video.
Hmm.
Well, we were going for a walk the other day and we went past Ace, and there's a big sign right on the door that says, "Sorry, folks, Ace Video has closed its doors permanently."
Oh.
And I'm thinking it's a direct result of the pandemic
Hmm.
where a whole bunch of 50 to 60-year-old men realize they can get porn on the internet. And I think that finally put Ace Video out of business. Related story, sales of laptops spiked in downtown Bay City during this pandemic.
It's funny. I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine was looking to find a bookstore in Bay City to buy Harry Potter books for her kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only bookstore, the only one that was listed as a bookstore, Ace,
I would not describe that as a
which
bookstore.
you can't find Harry Potter there.
It's the scariest, perviest looking bookstore in the world.
Well, maybe there'll be some weddings.
Weddings.
Maybe some of those guys are getting married.
Oh.
I ran into a story. This is the actual headline. Bodybuilder vows to marry his sex doll.
All right. You've piqued my interest.
A bodybuilder has announced his intentions to marry his sex doll after forking out for plastic surgeons to help her enhance her synthetic features.
Wait.
No, I can't wait, Eric. Gotta keep on.
He's already got a sex robot and he needed it to get plastic surgery?
How would that even work?
It's already plastic, right?
I would guess probably a very high quality grade of plastic.
You should sell these things, Matt.
And after that sentence where it says he's going to marry her after he forked out money for plastic surgeons to help her enhance her features, the next sentence is, "That's a lot to take in, isn't it?" Yuri Tolochko, a Kazakh actor and bodybuilder, has said he and his partner Margo have been invited onto a Russian TV show called Comedy Club, but insists that his relationship is the real deal. So much so, he wants to put a ring on it.
Well, that's classy.
Sharing photos of he and Margo backstage, Telechko wrote, "I won't spoil it. You'll find it out at the right time." Local media reports Telechko has been in a relationship with Margo for 8 months and says that despite their quarrels, he's dead set on marrying her. I mean, I guess the quarrels would be even worse because she's always giving him the silent treatment, I would think. I mean, you never want to talk about our problems. You just sit there. How can we work through this?
And only 8 months in, I mean, come on, man, she's not going to change.
Yeah.
If this is who she is now, this is how she's going to quarrel the rest of the relationship.
The next sentence says, "He must be next level argumentative if he can pick fights with a lump of plastic." Oh, sure, blame him.
Yeah, why? This article's assuming he's the culprit here. Maybe
Jeez.
she starts this.
I know. In a recent interview, Telechko said he took Margo to a clinic, a legit clinic meant to be used by humans, which is how I always qualify it when I tell somebody I went to a clinic. I had to go to a doctor's office, a legit doctor's office used by humans. He claims Margo began to feel a bit self conscious over her looks after he went public with their relationship. Now, whoever's writing this just feels the need to slam them in every other sentence because the next sentence is, "Has anyone told this fella it's a doll?" Well, you're the reporter. You tell me.
I know.
He said, quote, when I presented her photo to the world, there was a lot of criticism, and she began to develop a complex. So we decided to have plastic surgery.
Oh, he's thinking that it's her looks. But you know what? They're judging her because she's marrying a bodybuilder. It's the other way around here, Talachko.
Quote, she has changed a lot. At first it was hard to accept, but I got used to it later on. It was at a real clinic with real doctors.
He keeps insisting. You're right, Matt. How many times have you ever been to the doctor or like, oh, I went to the dentist today? A real dentist for human teeth?
Oh my god, yes. I will do that from now on. Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. I love how he's so insistent on it. Befitting the lifestyle of an actor's partner, Margo has her own Instagram page, but of course Talachko has to take all the snaps, do all the uploads, and write all the captions because, in all caps, Margo is a doll.
Why did the reporter? I feel like this reporter was coerced into writing this story. Like the editor was like, "Oh, you're going to write it." All right, I'm going to write it, but you're not going to like it.
It gets even more bizarre as Talachko also claims Margo has a waitressing job at a local bar.
Where is that girl with my drinks? She didn't say anything. She just came over here, stared at us for a few minutes, and then left.
Well, Talachko said, quote, she can't walk by herself. She needs help. Margo doesn't know how to cook, but she loves Georgian cuisine. Her favorite dish is kinkali. He added, she swears, but there is a tender soul inside.
She cusses like a sailor. Oh, but such a tender heart.
That would be a clue, though, if you're in a bar and the waitress needs help walking. I mean, she's either drunk or she's Margo. So, the actor says they met in a bar after another man attacked Margo, and he was able to step in and protect her.
That guy wasn't attacking her. He was picking up the mannequins from the display window and walking them to the back. So when are they getting married?
They don't have a date yet, but the reporter says she will keep us posted.
Sarcastically.
In the most sarcastic way possible, yes.
Man to marry a doll this Saturday. It's going to be a lovely affair.
Oh my. Well, at
Oh.
least one thing, you're not going to get COVID from her probably.
Well, I like how you allow probably.
I don't know how long that can live on a surface of Margo.
More than likely, he should be okay.
Hmm.
Well, it sounds like they're getting married because they are truly in love, though. It doesn't sound like, there's any real reason to get married, like maybe he knocked her up or anything.
Well, that couldn't happen.
Oh, couldn't it? Not according to the Weekly World News.
Oh, God.
Sex robot pregnant. Wall Street broker admits I'm the father.
Oh, Jesus.
A team of top obstetricians in New York City confirmed today that a sex robot, Aurora, is pregnant. The news astounded doctors, scientists, and robotic technicians alike. We, of course, know how it happened, said Dr. Banish Banjari from his Scarsdale home. but we don't know how it happened, robotics expert Jessica Malley told Weekly World News. So these guys are just having fun working inflection. We know how it happened, but we don't know how it happened. They're trying to create a whole who's on first routine out of this. Malley says that although they have been making the sex robots more and more human, she was unaware of any robots that were able to produce an egg. I'm more involved in the nuts and bolts of the sex robots, Malley said. I know our robotic engineers have been working miracles, but this would be a world-changing invention. The nuts and bolts of the sex robots.
I wonder how they met.
He bought her.
Jeez. Well, that's more
Uh,
realistic than meeting in a bar, I guess.
the Wall Street broker Scott Talmadge, he decided to buy a sex robot last November. He looked at a large number of them, and Aurora really spoke to him in French. She's a hot French-speaking robot who really gets me, he says. Followed by, I have never been this close to a woman before in my life. And you still haven't been. That's a robot.
I like I like why when he explains why that is. Trying to find a girlfriend in New York is impossible. They are all looking for the same guy. Handsome, sensitive, funny, athletic, romantic, wealthy, and someone who's a stud in bed. Unfortunately, I'm none of those things.
He's a lump. He's a piece of plastic. He could get into arguments with bodybuilders. He's been spending a lot of quality time with Aurora, apparently, especially during the quarantine. We have really been having a great time together. We have been binge watching a lot of Netflix shows and really getting to know each other.
Oh, this is so sad.
I know. He says, last week I noticed she had a little bump in her belly. I thought maybe there was a little defect or something, but Aurora thought it was something she had never experienced before. This French-speaking robot, he's touching her stomach going, what is that? What is that? And she's going, je veux, je veux, moi je veux, je.
Good French accent. If that's what you were trying to do.
It's how the sex dolls talk, Matt.
Oh, okay.
Scott says, I had a telemedicine call with my robotic specialist and my doctor. A real doctor.
A real doctor with a real clipboard.
They knew I was worried about Aurora, so they agreed to see her. I stayed outside while they examined her. Social distancing wasn't an issue. My doctor said he checked her out thoroughly, as did the robotic specialist. Of course, they had to take turns examining her because of the social distancing.
Your turn.
But they felt that she was in good shape.
Hi.
How weird is that? The robotic specialist showed up to the doctor's office?
How weird is it that we're reading this story? I mean, I don't think there's anybody who believes a word of this.
Scott says, I know Aurora better than anyone, so my doctor did an ultrasound of Aurora and he was shocked with what he discovered. He came into the waiting room and told me she's pregnant. He was beyond thrilled. I never thought that I'd be a father, but I am. We're having a baby. Aurora seemed her normal self when she heard the news, although Talmadge thought that he saw a tear fall from her left eye. But there is a sad part to this, Matt.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the doctor told the happy couple the baby is a girl. I wanted it to be a surprise,
Oh.
but I guess this is a big enough surprise on its own.
So how are they going to raise the baby? Are they going to raise it as a loser human being or a plastic clump of plastic?
Hopefully, it knows both cultures, Matt. You brought up a good point, Matt. Nobody's going to believe that any of this is real, and of course,
No.
this is from the Weekly World News, and I don't really think that other bodybuilder article is from any sort of reliable news. But here is something that is credible and legitimate. There is a book called Love and Sex with Robots, and it's by a leading expert in artificial intelligence, David Levy. And he argues that the entities we once deemed cold and mechanical will soon become the objects of real companionship and human desire. He shows how automata have evolved and how human interactions with technology have changed over the years. Levy explores many aspects of human relationships, the reasons we fall in love, why we form emotional attachments to animals and virtual pets, and why these same attachments could extend to love for robots. So, while we just had a little fun, there is some legitimacy to what is happening with sex robots, Matt.
Well, if they're going to start marrying these sex robots, I wonder are they going to be able to divorce them?
That sounds like the beginning of a Reddit thread, Matt.
That sounds like something guys in a comic book store would be talking about.
It could be an overheard conversation.
It
My
could be.
sex my sex robot cried for 2 hours last night when I told her I wouldn't marry her. Ha! But you do raise a good point, Matt. And Sonia Zahea, a San Francisco Bay attorney who blogs at numerous law and policy media outlets, as well as her own law firm, was interviewed by somebody doing some research on the Robots Unlimited and Love and Sex with Robots story. They asked her, they said, since David Levy is predicting marriage between humans and robots, and that it may be common in 50 years, what kind of headaches does this create for lawyers? What about for the creators of the robots? And Sonia says she thinks the challenge will be for the creators and policymakers to agree upon who should be held liable in cases where robots cause social harm and some common standards to potentially limit liability.
Hmm. I mean, I wouldn't put the blame on Margo. She can't even walk by herself.
Just think about that. I married my robot and we're getting a divorce now, but I'm blaming the guy who made the artificial intelligence of my sex robot.
Wow. There is a line in this article that says socially interactive robots need to be, quote, safe to play with in a way that manufacturers of toaster ovens never had to imagine. Well, why not?
It was 1972. One guy turned to another guy in the assembly line. Hey, you think anybody's ever going to marry one of these things? Get back to work, Frank.
I love my toaster oven. Why don't you marry it? Hmm.
People divorce for irreconcilable differences. Will people start divorcing sex robots for unrepairable differences?
Well, they say after about 10 years you just need to get a new one. You can't really do anything about it. You've heard of the 7 year itch? This is the 7 year glitch. Ever since the software updated, she won't stop crying.
That's good. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, this interview with the attorney Sonia Zahea, they ask her a couple of questions. What if a robot and a human marry and adopt a child? Could the female robot end up with custody? This belongs on Reddit, man. I don't know how this attorney kept a straight face. She just kind of glazes over it and says there are many hypothetical situations where human robot interactions could lead to outlandish and sci fi like results. Weirdest episode of Star Trek ever. Data, what are you doing with that kid? I've decided to sue for custody, Captain.
Well, you don't even have to marry a sex robot. Here's a story I found from India. Man marries wooden effigy as his 90-year-old father's last wish.
So it's funny that that headline though it starts off with, because this happened in India in a place called Uttar Pradesh. So the headline says UP man marries wooden effigy. When I saw this the first time, I'm like, what are they doing in Escanaba now?
No, it's not the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's UP is Uttar Pradesh, or as I guess you might pronounce it, Utter Pradesh. But
That's how they pronounce it in the UP.
you're going to Utter Pradesh? Now then, take a parka. It might get cold. I'm sure that's not how it's pronounced, but anyway, it goes on to say a man was married to a wooden effigy with elaborate rituals in a bizarre wedding that took place in that place on Wednesday. I'm not going to mispronounce it over and over again. I'm sorry.
Just say the UP.
There's somebody is listening and they're from India and they're like yelling at me. That's not how you say it.
Yeah, they're laughing at how we pronounce Udar Pradesh, but then they're calling our podcast something, something, nothing, nothing, duck, duck, goose. So I think fair is fair here, Matt. You say whatever you want to say.
Okay, I will. The wedding took place in northern Michigan on Wednesday. Well, if we're going to say UP, let's just have it.
There we go.
Anyway,
Perfect.
there we go. We've just switched the entire story from India to Marquette. Anyway, the father says, quote, I have 9 sons. 8 of them are married. The youngest one has no property and is not intelligent enough, so I got him married to an effigy.
I'm picturing him doing like that classic like slapping of the hands, like that's that. Done.
Yep, my work here is done. I can die now. Reports say, according to relatives, this was the old man's last wish. The wooden bride was decked in red silk and flowers, and a priest was also present to solemnize the marriage. Reports say Shiv Mohan, this is the father, was insistent that all his sons must be married before he dies. Relatives and local priests apparently convinced him that, in the absence of a bride, an effigy will do, and it's not an uncommon thing.
What they're doing in the UP nowadays, my goodness. It's like a whole other country, Matt.
I know, it's very different. But, it says it's not an uncommon thing. You try Googling marrying an effigy,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get much. I mean, you get this story, basically.
You get. So they just convinced a 90-year-old man that this is normal.
Yeah.
They showed him that article from the Weekly World News. Look, they're getting sex robots pregnant over in New York City. Your son can marry a tree man.
So then I thought maybe there's video or something on this. So I searched on YouTube. I looked on YouTube doing the search marrying an effigy. And the results I got were why do narcissists get married? A TED talk on the person you really need to marry, and Al Bundy's best insults.
And that's what they used to convince the dad. He's like, yes, Al Bundy, I know him. Okay, if he's on board, I'm on board.
Oh, the guy from Married to an Effigy with Children. I love it. Does he do a TED Talk later on? This will truly be a modern family. But they don't get the son's reaction. You know, they say he's not intelligent, but I mean, what is his reaction? It's like, yeah, I'm really happy to be marrying a piece of wood.
I'm sure the same people who convinced the dad that this was okay, they convinced him that don't worry, once he's dead, we'll clear this up.
There's a divorce lawyer, and she knows all about what to do with getting divorced from objects.
The last line of the article says a handful of relatives were also present and a small feast was organized. I guess they had pasties and moose. I don't know anything else about the UP. I don't go over the bridge much, Matt.
Well, I guess that's as good a place as any to wrap up.
Sounds good.
So remember, we are on Facebook, we're on Podbean, we're on YouTube now. Remember to like us on Facebook, tell your friends, tell your enemies.
But don't tell our enemies.
No, and also be sure to listen to Eric Walensky's other project, a podcast he's doing with Phil Durasmo called
This podcast ruined my childhood.
Yes, be sure to listen to that. And I think you'll enjoy it, folks.
And that's available on iTunes and Libsyn and soon other platforms yet to come. So, for everything, anything, and nothing really, I'm Eric.
I'm Matt.
And we'll see you next week.
Tell me why I had to go. Why don't you tell me why it just ain't so? Why don't you tell me why it hurts so bad? Why don't you tell me why you're not sad?
I don't think that I shall ever see a poem lovely as a tree.
Hey, that's my wife you're talking about.